It's open.
Good morning. Good morning. The Honorable François-Philippe Champagne, the Ministry of Finance and National Revenue. The Honorable Gary, the Ministry of Public Safety. The Honorable Wayne Long, the Secretary of State for the Canadian Revenue Agency and Financial Institution. The Honorable Stephanie McLean, the Secretary of the State for Seniors. The Parliamentary Secretary McLean, the Ministry of Women and Gender Equality. Distinguished guests and colleagues, it's a privilege to be with you this morning. On behalf of the Canadian Centre for Women Empowerment, the only national organization focused on ending economic abuse and advancing financial safety, I thank the Minister for his team for this leadership in protecting Canadians from fraud and strengthen our financial system. At the CCFWE, we see the human sides of financial crime every day. Survivors who lost not only saving, but also lost confidence and peace of mind. Fraud is not financial, it's public safety and human rights issues. Economic abuse and fraud share the same root: deception, manipulation, and control. In Canada, 96% of domestic abuse survivors experience economic abuse, coerced debt, identity theft, destroyed credit, and this crime often go unseen. That's why the Canadian Centre for Women Empowerment build bridge between survivors and financial system. When perpetuates misuse e-transfer to harass victims, we work with Women's Shelter Canada, leading e-track to launch an opt-out feature. But there is more to do. We must work together with the government, banks, fintechs, communities to make lasting changing. We need a financial code of conduct to end economic abuse in Canada, like United Kingdom, and we must invest on frontline organizations like CCFWE to help women, newcomers, seniors to recognize, prevent, and recover from exploitation. The government should include CCFWE in policy design, fraud protection, ensuring that lived practice is guided for. But behind every statistics, there is a story of survivors who is struggling to build their life, a mother restoring hope. When we protect people from financial harm, we protect their dignity and their future. Minister Champagne, your leadership reminds us that economic safety is a national safety, and that every Canadian deserves a financial system built on fairness, integrity, and compassion. Please join me in welcoming the Honourable François-Philippe Champagne, the Minister of Finance and the National Revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well done. Bonjour tout le monde. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. It's great to be with you. We're starting the week strong, fighting crime, fighting fraud, fighting scam, fighting for Canadians, as people would expect. So, bonjour tout le monde. C'est un grand plaisir d'être avec vous ce matin pour commencer la semaine ensemble. Bonjour à tous mes collègues. Vous comprendrez, je ne vais pas nommer l'ensemble de mes collègues, mais vous voyez que la lutte contre le crime organisé, contre la fraude financière, ça touche beaucoup de gens. Donc, vous voyez l'ensemble de mes collègues qui sont avec moi ce matin. Je voudrais quand même souligner la présence du ministre de la Sécurité publique, mon collègue Gary Haileyesus, qui fait un travail exceptionnel, extraordinaire, qui a compris que le crime, c'était l'une des priorités les plus importantes des Canadiens et Canadiennes à travers le pays. Je veux souligner aussi la présence de Stephanie McLean, la secrétaire d'État pour les aînés. Madame la secrétaire d'État, merci d'être là pour défendre nos aînés. Puis je pense que ce matin, c'est une démonstration très concrète qu'on va se battre pour nos aînés. Je veux souligner aussi la présence du secrétaire d'État Wayne Long, qui, lui, est responsable des institutions financières. Wayne était avec moi ici à quelque part. Wayne est juste là. Wayne est juste là. Wayne est juste derrière moi et vous allez voir l'importance de travailler aussi avec les institutions financières to tackle, financial crimes, and we'll be working with financial institutions. I wanted to say hello also to Martha Hayek, which is the CEO of Elder Abuse Prevention. Thank you for your leadership. You've been helping us for many, many years. I want to say also thank you to Anthony Quinn, the president of the Canadian Association of Retired Persons. That is touching retired persons across the nation. Christian Loignon, qui est de la Banque nationale du Canada, qui lui est un spécialiste dans les crimes financiers ou la prévention des crimes financiers, qui est avec nous. Meseret, which did a great job, and thank you for your leadership. You know, you've been there. She is the executive director of the Canadian Centre for Women's Empowerment. Et vous allez voir aussi l'impact que ça peut avoir aussi. On a fait une analyse sur l'égalité des genres et sur la violence qui est engendrée. On voit qu'on va prendre des mesures très concrètes justement pour s'attaquer à ça. Puis on va parler avec la présidente que je présente, la présidente Linda Lapointe, présidente du caucus des femmes. Et finalement, we have the CEO of the Canadian Banker Association, which was with me in Washington just last week. And we did a good roundtable. We had the FBI, we had the Treasury, we had the people who fight these things, financial crime, money laundering, going after terrorists. So we had the A-team around the table, and we were together on that. So as colleagues would have seen, and everyone at home watching, the world is rapidly changing in scope, scale, and speed. And this is why we need to take unprecedented actions to make sure that we protect Canadians. With new risks to our sovereignty, our economy, and our values, we need to take strong action. Canada's new government is meeting these challenges head-on with focus, determination, and obviously action. On November 4th, I will be tabling our budget, our bold plan to transform our economy and build Canada strong through generational investments and also fiscal discipline. To build a stronger country, we must first and foremost protect Canadians against all types of crimes, including financial crimes, scams, and abuse. Just last week, as I was saying, I was in Washington with my G7 counterparts, where I hosted a roundtable. Canada was hosting a roundtable on financial crime and fraud to really exchange best practices with global partners and making sure that we understand what's going on around the world, because as you would appreciate, financial crimes know no border. So there's a need to coordinate on the international level. This summer, I also had the opportunity to visit La Guardia di Finanza, which is Italy's top financial crime unit, to learn how they protect their own citizens against financial crimes. La fraude et la criminalité financière évoluent rapidement et notre réponse à nous doit être ciblée et décisive. En nous inspirant des meilleures pratiques mondiales et en nous appuyant sur l'annonce faite la semaine dernière par le Premier ministre du Canada, nous prenons de nouvelles mesures ce matin pour veiller à ce que tous les Canadiens soient mieux protégés. Aujourd'hui, le nouveau gouvernement du Canada annonce des mesures concrètes pour assurer le bien-être financier des Canadiens et lutter contre la fraude et l'exploitation financière. Dans le budget de 2025 qu'on présentera au mois de novembre, nous allons prendre des mesures ambitieuses justement pour protéger les Canadiens, surtout les plus à risque, contre l'exploitation et les abus, et pour faire en sorte que le Canada puisse agir avec force et détermination contre le crime organisé, contre le blanchiment d'argent et tous ceux et celles qui commettent ces crimes. Les criminels, comme vous le savez, c'est souvent les plus vulnérables, y compris les aînés et les nouveaux arrivants, profitant de la confiance et de l'insécurité financière. Budget 2025 will introduce Canada's first ever national anti-fraud strategy. This is a big, bold step that we're taking this morning. As fraud becomes more sophisticated, more Canadians are being impacted. Fraud is an issue across sectors, as fraudsters increasingly use text messages, emails, and social media to target victims. This means firms across the technology, telecommunication, and financial sectors must step up. This strategy will explore new policies and action that require these sectors to work more closely together to protect Canadians. Just to give you a sense of perspective, financial scams costed Canadians $643 million in 2024, and we have seen a large increase since 2020. Financial crimes, which is much broader, run into the tens of billions every year in Canada, and we must take bold action to stop that. I want to take a moment to thank and recognize the proactive leadership shown by industry partners, many of whom are with us this morning, that have been at the forefront of this fight. Many people have been engaging with us to make sure we take bold action. This will include initiatives like the Canadian Anti-Scam Coalition, which is led by the Canadian financial institutions, tech, and telecom companies. This national strategy will now build upon the vital initiatives you have already launched, and we're going to be working in partnership. Comme première étape, le gouvernement proposera des modifications à la loi sur les banques. Celles-ci exigeront des banques qu'elles mettent en place des politiques et des procédures contre la fraude visant les consommateurs et donneront aux consommateurs plus de contrôle sur leurs comptes pour limiter le vol d'argent. Donc, par exemple, des mesures où on peut autoriser le montant des débits ou ceux qui peuvent avoir accès à nos comptes. Il est essentiel que le Canada tienne responsables les criminels qui commettent ces crimes et qui en tirent profit. That's why the government is announcing also something I'm very proud, a new financial crime agency. This is modeled against the best in the world. Some of you may know the Financial Crime Unit in the United Kingdom. This is going to be something similar. This is going to be Canada's lead enforcement agency for combating financial crimes, including financial fraud and money laundering, as well as recovering criminal proceeds. This is a big, bold step to fight against organized crime and to fight against financial crime. We are working to quickly introduce legislation by the spring to stand up this new agency to protect Canadians. Lastly, the government will also work with stakeholders and banks to develop a code of conduct for the prevention of economic abuse. Economic abuse occurs when individuals access to money and financial independence is controlled or exploited, undermining their autonomy. The intent of the code is to ensure that banks position themselves well to identify, prevent, and respond to economic abuse. Le secteur financier canadien a un rôle crucial à jouer pour détecter rapidement les signes d'abus et offrir une voie sûre aux victimes des fraudes financières, en particulier pour les populations les plus vulnérables. Le nouveau Code de conduite établira des attentes claires sur la manière dont les institutions financières peuvent identifier, prévenir et répondre à l'exploitation économique afin de mieux protéger les Canadiens. Our budget is a plan to protect Canadians and help you feel more secure in how you save, spend, and how you invest. Most of us know someone who had their credit card compromised, fallen for a scam, or faced suspicious financial activity or outright exploitation. Ces expériences fâcheuses sont beaucoup trop courantes et c'est pourquoi il est urgent d'agir pour mieux protéger les Canadiens contre la fraude et l'exploitation financière au Canada. En terminant, ce matin, nous prenons des mesures décisives pour lutter contre la criminalité financière afin que les Canadiens se sentent en sécurité avec leur argent et en contrôle avec leur avenir. Every day is a good day to fight for Canadians. So I'm proud to be standing here with our caucus, with our colleagues, and leader of the community to fight for Canadians, to make sure we take bold actions to stop financial crime and that we can help victims along the way. So with that, I'm glad to turn over to my dear colleague, Secretary McLean, which will be addressing this group, and then we'll be happy to take questions. Secretary McLean, the floor is yours. Merci.
Thank you so much, Minister Champagne. Bonjour tout le monde. It's such a privilege to be here today, and this is such an exciting day and such an exciting announcement. We're here talking about concrete actions that this government is taking to protect Canadians from frauds, scams, and economic abuse. Ministers Champagne, Ananda Sangri, Secretary Long, thank you so much for your leadership and responsiveness on this issue. And thank you to Marta, Anthony, and Christian for your advocacy. As mentioned, I'm Stephanie McLean, Secretary of State for Seniors. And when I first took on this role, from day one, I knew that frauds and scams were a key issue for older Canadians. Because you don't need to be an expert to know that seniors are often the target of these crimes. This is a conversation happening around our country, at dinner tables. And since that first day, I've had the opportunity to speak with seniors across Canada, and I've heard the heartbreaking stories about how their lives have been turned upside down because of frauds, scams, and abuse. And unfortunately, these stories are not rare. There are seniors in all of our communities, many in our lives, and they're living on fixed incomes, losing thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, their entire life savings. In my riding on Vancouver Island, I have a constituent named Michelle, whose elderly mother, was the victim of a sophisticated romance scheme through an app, through a game, and it defrauded her out of tens of thousands of dollars. As Minister Champagne said, frauds and scams cost Canadians $643 million in 2024 alone. And of that, $176.6 million were taken from older people. So, Michelle's mother, like many seniors and their families, have been asking the government to do something about it. And that's why we're here today. These actions we are taking will protect Canadians, and the new Financial Crimes Agency will confront those organized crimes at the source. We're launching Canada's first ever whole-of-government strategy to fight fraud, financial crime, and economic abuse so that seniors keep the financial security that they've spent their lives building. And that means stronger protections for their bank accounts, a dedicated agency, and collaboration with the financial sector to tackle economic abuse. As we develop this strategy in the weeks and months to come, the perspective of older Canadians will be essential to our success. And that's because by 2057, nearly a quarter of our population will be 65 and older. Seniors aren't just part of our past, they are central to our present and our future and our country's economic well-being. And we have a responsibility to address the issues that are impacting their lives today, like frauds, scams, and economic abuse, to ensure that seniors live with dignity, respect, and security. It's clear through announcements like today that when we support seniors, we all benefit. I'll now turn it over to Secretary Long for some comments. Thank you.
Good morning. It's a great day for Canada, a great day for Canadians. And as we've always said, as a government, we should be judged by how we reach out and protect our most vulnerable. So this announcement today is especially meaningful. We know our world is changing. You know, it's a world where scams, fraud, financial exploitation are becoming more and more sophisticated and more frequent. And we know, all of us know, lots of members of Parliament behind me, that protecting Canadians' financial information and life savings is of vital importance. It's more important now forever. And all of us standing here as members of Parliament, from coast to coast to coast, we hear from our constituents, many who are seniors, who have been defrauded. And the stories, and we all have the stories, they are absolutely heartbreaking. With today's announcement, Canada's new government is taking decisive action to safeguard financial security of Canadians. With the launch of a whole-of-government anti-fraud strategy, the establishment of a dedicated financial crimes agency, and action to combat economic abuse, we are building on the leadership we have already seen from Canada's financial sector. I want to thank the Canadian Bankers Association for their leadership to date in the fight against scams and fraud. Their ongoing efforts to educate Canadians and strengthen industry protections have been vital. I look forward to working closely with our financial institutions, big and small, across the country, and Minister Champagne, Ananda Sangri, and Secretary of State McLean, who I have worked with closely. When we were sworn in, I sat beside Secretary McLean in the back of all of us that were sworn in, and she actually didn't introduce herself as Stephanie. She said, "We need to protect seniors." So I said, "Oh, what portfolio do you have?" Well, I quickly became aware of that. I appreciate everybody's passion behind me. So again, this is important work we're doing. This is another significant announcement. We're here to protect Canadians. We're here to represent Canadians. We're here to fight for Canadians and Canadians with their hard-earned money over the coming months. So again, I wish you all good morning and thank you.
Oui.
Les fraudes de type numérique,
Oui.
où par exemple on vole la personnalité d'une personnalité publique comme Marie-Claude Barrette qui se plaint énormément de ça, est-ce que vous visez ça avec votre initiative aujourd'hui?
Ça va sûrement aider parce qu'on est tous, pendant que j'écoutais mes collègues parler, même moi en fin de semaine, je recevais plusieurs messages justement d'une banque, supposément d'une banque, qui me demandait de confirmer quelque chose pour une banque pour laquelle je ne fais pas affaire. Donc, ça vous donne une idée à quel niveau c'est rendu, où on reçoit plusieurs messages, évidemment, qui étaient frauduleux. Ça va aider. Écoutez, je ne connais pas son cas particulièrement.
Très public, comme des acteurs dont l'image est utilisée pour faire de la fraude.
On l'a vu. Vous savez, je parlais avec, dans mon cas ou d'autres, on a vu que des gens ont même utilisé l'intelligence artificielle, par exemple, pour faire des montages. J'en ai même vu un, ma mère m'a envoyé un message en disant, on te voit sur un certain message sur lequel, présumément, j'offrais des services financiers ou des conseils financiers aux Canadiens, évidemment, ce que je ne ferais jamais comme ministre des Finances. Alors, oui, c'est des mesures qui vont aider. Je pense qu'avec le code de conduite aussi, on va demander aux institutions financières de travailler main dans la main avec. Ils le font déjà, je dois dire. Ça va être une chose. On va amender la loi sur les banques aussi pour donner plus de pouvoir aux citoyens. Vous savez, par exemple, quand vous décidez de mettre une limite sur les transferts, quand vous décidez qui peut avoir accès à votre compte. Donc, c'est des choses précises. Et moi, ce que j'aime de l'Agence contre les crimes financiers, là, vraiment, on s'en va dans les meilleures pratiques. On parlait avec le FBI, justement, la semaine dernière au G7, des experts. Là, vous parlez des experts mondiaux qui s'occupent de ça à l'échelle, évidemment, américaine, mais qui collaborent. Et là, on va avoir une agence qui va pouvoir collaborer avec les meilleurs. J'ai parlé de la Guardia des Finanze en Italie, le FBI, il y a le département du Trésor, parce qu'il faut savoir que ce qui se passe ici, ça finance souvent les organisations criminelles transnationales. Oui, c'est un enjeu chez nous, mais ces organisations-là, comme vous le savez, habituellement, ont des correspondants dans d'autres pays.
Spécifiquement sur cette question-là, est-ce que vous allez vous y attaquer?
Bien, c'est sûr qu'on va le regarder. Je ne connais pas son cas en particulier, mais c'est clair qu'en ayant des mesures qui vont protéger généralement l'ensemble des Canadiens, ça va offrir une protection de plus pour ces gens-là. Et s'il y a matière à faire plus, bien évidemment, on va regarder parce que le code de conduite, il est à élaborer. On va travailler avec l'Association des banquiers canadiens pour voir comment on peut faire ça. Puis évidemment, comme je vous dis aujourd'hui, c'est un pas parce qu'avec une stratégie nationale pour la prévention de la fraude, bien, moi, je vous dirais que c'est un pas significatif. Ça envoie un message clair aux criminels qui nous regardent ce matin, c'est-à-dire que là, on va prendre les bouchées doubles, on va s'assurer qu'on prend les mesures justement pour protéger les Canadiens.
Mr. Champagne, there are already several federal organizations. There are already several federal organizations that do similar work. I'm thinking of OSFI or FinTrack.
Yeah.
Why not just ask FinTrack to do more of this instead of creating a whole new federal agency?
Oh no, you need something different. This is about, if you look at the financial crime unit in the United Kingdom, or if you look at the FBI units that are doing that, you need specialized people. We'll be attracting the best. We'll take people from different parts of the government of Canada, you know, that would be interested to join that organization because fighting financial crime in the 21st century is something very complex, to be honest. You know, I'm referring to discussions we just had last week with the Canadian Banker Association, but we also had the American Banker Association because we know that financial institutions, telecoms are all part of the solution because people, like I said, would use SMS, they would use email, they would use social media. But I would say you need something different. You need something which is best in class in the world, and I can tell you, you need the type of agents that would have the investigative power, the skills needed, and the ability to really go after organized crime, money laundering, transnational crime, and I want Canada to be best in class. That's why we've been consulting with, I would say the Italians are probably, they even have an institute, so they are, I would say, world-class when it comes to fighting organized crimes and money laundering. We're learning from them. We're talking to the FBI. We're going to talk to the financial crime unit in the UK. But, you know, my aim is to go after organized crime, is to go after those who scam and defraud Canadians. As we heard from my colleagues, it affects usually the most vulnerable, seniors and other people who, you know, fall, you know, within the trap that they're trying to pose. And trust me, we're going to...
What about the anti-scam coalition? Anti-scam coalitions already work. Sectors are working together voluntarily already. Will this legislation mandate that kind of voluntary cooperation that we're already
Well, there's
seeing?
3 things. First, we'll have the Financial Crime Agency, we have the Anti-Fraud Strategy, and we'll have the Code of Conduct. All that is working. I would say it's like building blocks to make sure, because one is to amend the law, you know, the Bank Act in Canada, so that, you know, there's mandatory requirements for banks to more closely to prevent these things. I would say otherwise they're doing already a lot, but, you know, you want to codify some of that. We're going to work. You have leaders in the community who are already doing that. We're going to take their knowledge in the Code of Conduct. And the Financial Crime Agency, this is really about compliance, because you can have a code, you can amend the law, but what you need is people who will do enforcement actions, will work with our partners across the world, will try to disrupt, detect, prevent these kind of crimes, which are far too common in today's economy.
The steel and aluminum industry is very upset. The steel and aluminum industry is very upset,
after
sir.
I promise.
Steel and aluminum industry is very upset at your government reducing counter tariffs both on Chinese steel and aluminum, U.S. steel and aluminum, other different products. Can you explain why you did that? The steel industry says 80% of the stuff that has tariffs on it could be made in Canada.
I would say let's put things in perspective. If you look at the numbers, you will see it's a very small proportion in terms of the remission order. The remission process is to protect people who are in the downstream sector. A number, and I can provide you the detail because it's very transparent, you know. We have a remission process because you had firms, for example, who had contracted to provide, to buy certain amount of products before. So we need to, they needed to honor their contracts. So the remission process is in place to deal with exceptional circumstances. But if you look at the amount of tariffs that we would have collected in the remission, you're in the range you're in the range of what? Less than 10%. So this is really very, very specific cases. I think in the case of China, you're talking of 23 million. So you're talking about a very small group of very specific products that needed to enter Canada to maintain the supply chain. We are very adamant that we need to support our steel industry, our steel workers. We talk with the association, but you have to understand that some steel products, and they know that as well, because when we take these actions, we consult with the industry. Canadians understand, although we would like to make everything in Canada, and trust me, we would like all of us to make that we could provide all that steel, but there are some steel products that you just don't make in Canada. So you need to make sure that, industry can still procure these products, and that's why we have been very transparent with the process. It's limited, you've seen. Before it was 6 months, I said 2 months. Then I said it has to be more limited, but at the same time, you need to protect also downstream industries that need to procure.
In the Liberal platform, sir, in the Liberal platform.
But was this?
Just give me a second. I'll go to you and I'll go to you, I promise.
Was this a concession to China to create some goodwill for Minister Annen's trip?
No,
and also, when you talk about the
this is not about China, this is about Canadians. This is about Canada. This is about Canadian manufacturing, which needed these products. You're talking about 20 million. So just put things in perspective. I think it's 23 million out of memory, the remission. So you're talking about a very, very, very discrete product that needed to enter in the supply chain at the request of Canadian manufacturing companies. So this is not about China, it's about Canada, because people understand that once you want to put tariff and once you want to protect our steel industry and our workers, which we all want to do that. That's why we have put a Buy Canada and say, let's become our own best customers. So we're going to put that in the budget. We're going to make sure we use more of our Canadian steels. But we need to appreciate as Canadians sometime, the industry is pivoting. I hope we can make all the steel products, for example, that we need, but there's certain grade of steels, there's certain very specific products, and you will see the number of submission that we receive and those that have been accepted is a very small subset of those, because every time we conduct our own investigation, our own due diligence to make sure that if the product can be sourced in Canada or from one of our trading partner, that would be the first option. It's only in very exceptional cases that would allow for a remission and a permission to import. Sorry, you've been, sorry, sorry, I could not hear.
Financial Crimes Agency 5 years ago. What's taking so long?
Well, I'm taking that over now, so it's going to happen. That's the reality. We're going to make it happen because the world has changed as well. We're talking to our partner. I can tell you, I wish you would have been at the G7 with us, but you would have seen that this is one of the prime topic that we've been talking, and Canada, as the chair, has been bringing that to the floor and say, you know what, we need to do something. Our people are hurting. They're going after seniors. They're going after vulnerable people. We know that crime is more transnational now. It's helped to finance, I would say, terrorist organization. So we need to do everything we can. And I can tell you, I wish you would have been there because you would have seen the reaction. When Canada chaired these meetings, when Canada puts something on the table, the Canadian Banker Association can tell you, because we even had the FBI come for that session of the meeting to say, listen, we want to be part of the solution. Can we learn from you? Can we work together? Same thing with our colleagues of the G7 in Europe. And so that's why I think it is something that we're taking head on. and it's going to be put in the budget, and therefore it's going to happen.
Donnez-moi juste. Les contribuables ont payé plus de 2,5 millions de dollars en dépenses de voyage pour les conjoints des sénateurs depuis 9 ans. C'est légal, mais est-ce que c'est raisonnable dans le contexte actuel?
J'ai vu que le Sénat a dit qu'il le ferait. En tout cas, je pense avoir lu. Vous comprenez, je suis un peu occupé ces jours-ci, mais j'ai eu la chance de lire, je pense, dans la presse que le Sénat allait revoir certaines règles, je pense, au niveau des dépenses ou des voyages qui sont présentement autorisés. Alors, je vais laisser cette question-là au Sénat, mais j'ai compris qu'ils étaient en train de revoir. J'ai vu, je pense, une annonce qui disait qu'ils allaient créer un comité sénatorial, justement, pour revoir les périodes. Excusez-moi.
L'agence que vous créez, est-ce que ça va venir avec davantage de ressources, de financement, ou est-ce qu'on crée encore plus de bureaucratie?
Non, au contraire, on va rassembler les forces fortes parce que, comme je vous dis, combattre le crime organisé aujourd'hui, combattre les crimes financiers aujourd'hui, ça prend des techniques, ça prend de l'expertise, ça prend des processus qui sont différents. Vous savez, c'est plus comme à l'époque. Aujourd'hui, c'est beaucoup sur l'Internet. On utilise les médias sociaux, on utilise les systèmes de télécommunication. Donc, on va aller chercher les meilleurs ou ceux qui seraient intéressés à joindre cette agence-là, d'abord à travers le gouvernement du Canada, parce qu'il y a plusieurs agences, comme vous dites, qui ont une certaine expertise. Maintenant, c'est de le regrouper, parce que ce qu'on a vu dans les pays qui ont le mieux fait, c'est que vous avez une agence dédiée. Ces gens-là, ils se lèvent le matin, ils se couchent le soir, puis tout ce qu'ils pensent, c'est comment on peut combattre la fraude, comment on peut combattre le crime organisé, comment on peut combattre le blanchiment d'argent. Alors, maintenant, on a des gens qui le font. C'est pour ça qu'on va travailler main dans la main avec le ministre de la Sécurité publique. C'est-à-dire qu'on va rassembler ces gens-là dans une agence avec une mission, avec aussi, je dirais, même des collaborations internationales qui vont nous permettre d'être plus efficaces pour défendre les Canadiens.
Vous avez des propos de Pierre Poilievre sur Justin Trudeau quand il a dit que M. Trudeau devrait être emprisonné.
Je n'ai pas bien de temps pour écouter M. Poilievre. Vous savez, on a un budget à présenter. Qui va présenter des investissements générationnels, discipline fiscale, et je pense que, vous savez, des propos comme ceux-là n'ont pas leur place dans une démocratie, certainement pas au Canada. Merci.
There's a $20 billion hole with counter.
Merci. Merci tout le monde. Thanks for being here. That was great.